The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. If you have already watched this introductory information in another video, you can skip ahead no more than 28 minutes. What needs to be said here is that the videos that predict that Kamala Harris would die in a plane crash on December 24th, 2024 are 100% correct. It was a step in the trail of signs, and this is how it works. The prediction, when it comes to pass, will prove this. The step, the prophetic expected sign that we expected in advance, was Pope Francis knocking 3 times and opening 5 doors in Rome, 5-door portals. And this is symbolic, or rather revealed, adding 3 plus 5 days to reach the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will crash in her plane after she departs from Los Angeles. Spanish for fallen angels. She will fall after departing from Los Angeles, symbolism for fallen angels, next to the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, which is symbolic of a portal. Okay, so again, December 24th was the date we expected in advance related to Kamala Harris's death next to a symbolic portal. And on this day, Pope Francis knocked 3 times and opened 5 doors, conducted a ritual involving opening 5-door portals. And so that revealed adding 3 plus 5 days to reach the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die, which incidentally will be Hanukkah Day 8. 3 plus 5 is 8. The same is true for December 27th, which was 3 days after the Pope knocked 3 times, and 5 days before Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash at the symbolic portal, the Gateway Arch. Hence why the Pope knocked 3 times and began opening 5-door portals. On December 27th, the NASA Sun probe, Parker probe, emerged on the other side of the sun. It had gone through a symbolic portal. It was out of communication for a few days, 3 days. In fact, it entered on the 24th. It entered the sun's portal on the same day that the Pope started knocking on portal doors. And it was Hanukkah Day 3. Kamala Harris will die on Hanukkah Day 8. And the sun's probe went past a record closest approach to the sun's surface at 3.8 million miles. And so that's why 3 days from the day that it went into the sun's portal and then emerged, and then a total of 8 days from the day it went into the sun's portal. But also the 8 is a hint at Hanukkah Day 8, and also the 3 knocks and 5 doors that the Pope enacted in his ritual. The same is true for the videos that predicted that Kamala Harris would die in a plane crash on February 10th. There are 70 videos that lead trails of signs to February 10th. I could not continue to update these videos. These videos are extremely important and they must be watched, and the analysis is 100% correct. And the reason for God doing all of this is in order to tell these stories through which he is communicating extremely important information and knowledge that everyone needs to know. That's the purpose of the prediction. The purpose of the prediction isn't to go, hey, cool, neat, proof of the God of the Bible. No, the purpose of the prediction is to communicate this information that is in these stories, and that's why all of the videos that predicted February 10th for Kamala Harris are equally important as this video. They must be watched. If you do not watch the 70 videos that predicted February 10th, you will have missed entirely the point of this prediction. And believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for this prediction that is from God. All right, this video is about December 27th. In a way, it'll be an explanation through God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections that he used to point to December 27th. However, in doing so, he has told many amazing stories that convey very extremely important information and knowledge. And so that's why they need to be watched. But what I'm going to do now before we get into the video is introduce it with this brief explanation for the prophetic sign that happened, that occurred on December 27th, which confirmed all of the analysis, thereby making all of the analysis in this video 100% correct. And when the prediction comes to pass, it will prove this. That's the purpose of the prediction, because the purpose of this prediction that is from God is to tell these stories and for you to learn the information in the stories. The purpose of the prediction isn't for have you to say, oh, cool, God predicted this ahead of time through this video. Wow. No, the purpose of it is to convey to you the information in the stories that God is telling. There are countless stories that God is telling regarding Kamala Harris in a plane crash, her predicted death in a plane crash. But along the way is this particular step in the trail. So let me explain. So the trail of signs led to December 27th ahead of time. And now this is what happened. The sign that we expected in advance of December 27th, 2024, was NASA's Parker Sun probe. It sent a beacon back to Earth after having safely emerged on the other side of the sun. It had been out of contact since December 24th, which, by the way, was another step in the trail of signs regarding Kamala Harris's predicted death in a plane crash. On the 24th, it entered the sun's atmosphere for the record closest approach to the sun's surface at 3.8 million miles. First, let me pause here and say that the headlines regarding this was how the probe plunged into the sun's atmosphere. Okay, so it was a plunging, it was a going into the depths, it was a going down, if you will. It was symbolic of Kamala Harris's plunge from the sky, her predicted plunge and crash from the sky. Okay? Now also, God uses records for signs. So it was the closest ever approach to the surface of the sun, which is a record, and that's what God uses for prophetic signs. But it was also, at the same time, traveling at the record fastest speed for a man-made object. So that's another record, a second witness, which is, by the way, what the Bible says is required. And that's what makes what is being explained on this channel true, and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs, is that it works on this principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter. Okay, that's how these precise predictions are known. It's through hundreds of signs that God has been painting to paint the picture with all of these second and third witnesses that we can rely on to know that something is true, and then go from there, building on what's already been learned. And this has been going on for years now. For example, it has been known that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash since 2020. Okay? And that was based on other prior knowledge that came before 2020 that was made that insight possible. Okay? Now, the probe's emergence on the other side of the sun is symbolic of otherworldly demons passing through a portal. Okay? Because the sun is in the outer space. It's another world, if you will. So it's symbolism for the otherworldly crossing over of demons through a portal, which is why, again, the probe disappeared out of contact for 3 days from NASA. It went into a symbolic portal on another world, if you will. Okay? That's the symbolism here, which is making this all relevant to Kamala Harris, as I'm explaining, and that's why this date that was pointed to ahead of time is 100% correct. All of the analysis that I will be explaining in this video and other videos is 100% correct, because this is the relevant Kamala Harris prophetic sign. Okay? Now, it was 3 days after it entered the sun's corona on December 24th, the same day that Pope Francis conducted a ritual involving opening door portals. Okay? So the probe went into the symbolic portal on the sun on the same day that Pope Francis conducted a ritual involving opening portals, door portals. Okay, they even call the Catholics, the Vatican is even calling them portals. They're sacred portals. Okay? Now, Francis knocked 3 times at the door. 3 days later, the probe emerged from the other side of the sun after passing 3.8 million miles from the sun's surface. The probe entered the portal, the symbolic portal, if you will, on the eve of Hanukkah, day 1. All right? So, this 3.8 miles hints at adding 3 days, as well as adding 8 days from this day, the day that Francis knocked on the portal door and the day that the probe went into the sun's portal. This 3.8 million miles hints at adding 3 days and also adding 8 days to this day. And that gets us Hanukkah day 3 and Hanukkah day 8. Okay, because the origin date, December 24th, was the eve before Hanukkah, which is an 8-day festival. 3 days after the probe entered the sun's corona, on the day that the Pope knocked 3 times at the door portal, the probe emerged from its symbolic portal. Kamala Harris is predicted to depart Los Angeles LAX airport on Hanukkah day 8, and then fall, as in fallen angels. She's predicted to depart, I should say. And when I say past tense, it's because I have been living with this fact that she's going to die in a plane crash, okay, since 2020. So it's a fact in my mind, okay? Anyway, and by the way, if you don't believe me, the post date of the video proves it, and also the time-stamped email and the forensic notes PDF document, and the hundreds of other Kamala Harris plane crash prediction videos that have been posted on this channel over the years. And if you aren't on a channel that has all of the videos, get to one of them that I have that do have all of them. Okay, so again, the Pope, the 3 days after the probe, Pope rhymes with Pope. I didn't even realize that until now. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's amazing. It's just amazing how God works. So the probe entered the sun's corona on the same day that the Pope, they rhyme, knocked 3 times, okay? And the probe emerged from its portal 3 days later. Okay, you get the idea. Kamala Harris is predicted to depart Los Angeles, which is Spanish for angels, airport. I've learned through God signs now that airport signs are symbolic of portals. Okay, on Hanukkah day 8. And then fall, as in fallen angels, as in that's why she'll launch from Los Angeles, and then fall from the first heaven, as in fallen angels from heaven. The first heaven is the sky, and crash next to the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, which is symbolic of a portal, a door portal to the demonic realm. This is predicted to be 8 days after the probe entered its symbolic portal and the day that the Pope opened the first of the door portals. The Pope knocked 3 times and opened the first of 5 doors, 3 plus 5 days, before Harris is predicted to crash next to the Gateway Arch, which is symbolic of a door portal. Also, by the way, she will be departing from LAX airport, and she will crash in St. Louis at the center area of the country, right where the 2 eclipses that passed over each other engendered an X. The paths of totalities of the 2017 and 2024 eclipses that crossed over America engendered an X, at the center of which is St. Louis, and that's why she will depart LAX airport and will crash there. And the bigger picture reason for that is because in God's signs, the letter X is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist. And those who have taken the mark of the Antichrist will become demonically possessed when the demons cross through the portal into the earthly realm, as described in the fifth trumpet in the book of Revelation, hence why Pope Francis began knocking on 5 portal doors. All right, now there's more to this. I just explained how God, through the signs here, revealed or communicated adding the 3 and the 8 days to get to Hanukkah day 3 and Hanukkah day 8. Okay, 3 days later, after the probe entered and went out of contact with NASA, entered the sun's atmosphere, in other words, the symbolic portal, was December 27th when it emerged from this journey through the sun's corona and then made contact with NASA again. And it was at a record closest 3.8 million miles, which also revealed adding the 8 days to the day that it first entered the sun's corona and symbolic portal. And that gave us January 1st, Hanukkah day 8. Now, Hanukkah day 8 and January 1st ended up being another step in the trail of signs. But again, also, this day, January 1st, Hanukkah day 8, was 3 + 8 days after the Pope knocked 3 times and began opening 5 doors. So God definitely pointed to this date, and there are many other reasons, many other profound reasons for how God pointed to January 1st ahead of time regarding Kamala Harris and her predicted plane crash. All right, so I have explained the signs on January 1st in greater detail than I will here in another video that I've titled The New Year's Attacks, because January 1st, the prophetic signs were the attacks in New Orleans and the explosion with the Cybertruck in front of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas. Also, this New Year's Eve night was the time on this New Year's Eve night, there were prophetic lightning strikes. Kamala Harris is predicted to die in a plane crash due to lightning. This is amazing because what we have here on this expected date for Kamala Harris that we knew ahead of time, like I was just explaining, were these confirmations which involve lightning. Now, the lightning strikes hit the 2 iconic locations in each New York City and Washington, D.C., which is, of course, pointing to the 2 planes that crashed into New York and the 2 planes that were intended to crash into Washington, D.C. on 9/11. And 9/11 hints at Revelation 9/11, which is the verse that symbolizes this demons crossing over into the earthly realm through the portal. Okay, so the lightning struck the Capitol building and the Washington Monument, and also the 2 iconic towers in Manhattan, which of course symbolizes the twin towers that were struck by the 2 planes. The Empire State Building and the One World Tower were struck by lightning on the same night. Now, the story in New York City, the story of the day, was the heavy rain during the ball drop for the New Year's countdown. Kamala Harris is predicted to drop from the sky. And the heavy rain is Noah's flood symbolism. And in the account of the flood, there was a 7 days warning given to Noah and his family, which would represent those that are watching the signs, God's faithful, before the destruction. And so these warning signs that include the heavy rain, which is Noah's flood symbolism, are 7 days before Kamala Harris's predicted death in a plane crash on January 8th. We still have that 8 number, by the way. But also, January 8th will be 5 times 8 days. Sorry, 3 times 5 days. Sorry. 3 times 5 days after the Pope knocked 3 times and began opening 5 doors. So we have another revelation which is completely in line with what God communicated here. Furthermore, the day that Pope Francis knocked 3 times and began opening 5 doors, which hints at adding 3 times 5 days to get January 8th, and the day that Kamala Harris is predicted to crash next to the Gateway Arch, symbolic of a portal door. That day in the Hebrew calendar was exactly 3 times 5 years after Barack Obama, the second of the 2 antichrists, because Pope Francis is the first of the 2, received his Nobel Peace Prize. And the night before, in other words, he would have received it, I'm sure, in the morning. And then on the night before was the famous, if you will, large, mysterious spiral light in the sky over Scandinavia. And of course, the Nobel Peace Prize is given in Sweden, Scandinavia. This massive spiral light in the sky, this mysterious spiral, was symbolic of a portal door to the demonic realm. Now, the dates in the calendar, the Hebrew calendar, that are 3 times 5 years apart exactly, are 923. It was 923, 23rd day of the 9th month in the Hebrew calendar, when Obama got the Peace Prize in Scandinavia on the day of the portal in the night sky. And it's 3 times 5 years later exactly to 923 in the Hebrew calendar, when the Pope, the first of the 2 antichrists, began opening the door portals, knocked 3 times and began opening 5 portal doors, which confirms the 3 times 5 years. Now, the reason why these 2 dates are 15 years or 3 times 5 years apart on the date 923 is that these 2 antichrists met in the White House garden when the Pope visited Obama on the date 923 in the Gregorian calendar. And the reason for that is because God is pairing 9 and 23 together to confirm his signs and connections, first of all, which is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter. And if we think about it, one simple way God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 23. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 7 years. But 9 and 23 because the basketball president who wore number 23 in high school was inaugurated in 09. Also, the mark of the Antichrist is the inverse of it is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, and it alters or changes a person's 23 chromosomes, pairs of chromosomes. Okay, and so anyway, that's why they met on the date 923 in the Gregorian, and that's why these 2 portal Obama, portal Pope dates are 3 times 5 years apart on the date 923 in the Hebrew calendar. Well, anyway, that 3 times 5 years is more confirmation for adding the 3 times 5 days from the day that the Pope knocked 3 times and began opening 5 doors to the date it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash next to the Gateway Arch, which is symbolic of a door portal. All right, now the reason for the last 19 minutes of explanation was to validate for you the relevance of December 27th. I explained now the sign that occurred on the 27th, which was the emergence of the probe. But the purpose of this prediction that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash on January 8th, next to the portal door in St. Louis, the purpose of it is not for you to, oh, cool, the prediction came to pass. No, that's not the purpose. The purpose of it is for you to learn the extremely important information and knowledge that God communicated through the many different stories that, for one, pointed to December 27th. And if you don't watch the videos and the information and the stories that God told that pointed to December 27th, you will have missed entirely the point of the prediction. You might as well, stop watching this channel. You don't get it. And fair enough. I've tried my best to explain it. But the information in this video that will explain how God was pointing to December 27th, in other words, is 100% correct, and it needs to be watched. Okay, I'm thinking I should add a couple more things to validate January 1st, the step in the trail of signs that was January 1st. I mentioned how the lightning strikes struck the two iconic locations in New York and Washington, D.C., and how this hinted at the two planes that struck these two cities, two planes that struck Washington, or destined for Washington, and two planes that struck New York on 9/11. And also Kamala Harris's plane will crash due to lightning, and how it's 7 days later, and that was revealed through the Noah's flood symbolism in New York on this night. Okay, but there was also the attack in New Orleans by the Muslim terrorist who had served 10 years in the U.S. Army, and this was in the 18th state. The initial report in the chaos, in the first few minutes of the chaos after the attack, was that at least 10 had been killed. Regardless of the how it wasn't 10 in the end, he served for 10 years, and it was in the 18th state. That's because God hinted at or pointed to Luke 10:18, when Jesus said that he saw Satan falling like lightning. That's incidentally why also the Cybertruck, the Tesla Cybertruck at the hotel in Las Vegas, the Trump Tower Hotel, the Trump International Hotel, because Tesla is also symbolism for lightning. Not only is it symbolism for electricity, but Nikola Tesla was famous for his experiments with lightning. And so that's why God uses Tesla in his signs for lightning symbolism. So more lightning symbolism. We've got lightning symbolism all over the place, okay? And that's because Kamala Harris will fall from the sky, just like Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. She will fall from the sky and then be replaced by the Antichrist. Satan falling like lightning from heaven, in other words. Now, the name Barack Obama in Hebrew means lightning from heaven. Barak is Hebrew for lightning. Bama is in Hebrew, it means high place, and in the Bible is a metaphor for heaven because, for example, it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place, a metaphor for heaven. And also, the high place is a euphemism in the Bible for the false religious worship that the Jews would conduct on the tops of mountains, very Antichrist. And in the language Jesus would have spoken, the word for from is O. In the language he would have spoken would be Aramaic. And in Aramaic, from is O. And so, Barack Obama means lightning from heaven. Either Jesus didn't know what he was saying when he said this, or he knew there would be a famous president named Barack Obama and said this anyway, or he was revealing the identity of the Antichrist. Obviously, the latter option is the only one that makes any sense. And that's why the terrorist served 10 years in the U.S. Army. The big thing about him is that, and it was in the 18th state on the day of the lightning strikes in Washington, D.C. and New York, and the day of the Tesla Cybertruck explosion. So that is all more confirmation for what is going on here with this lightning symbolism. And then we add the 7 days revealed through the sign in New York because of the Noah's flood symbolism. Now back to what I was saying. On December 24th, Pope Francis was exactly 88 years and 8 days old, which overlaps this Parker Probe 888 stuff. On December 24th, Francis enacted a ritual involving opening 5 portal doors in Rome. If you haven't heard about this yet, the doors are in different locations in Rome, and when you connect the dots, it becomes a sort of type of pentagram that is a classic Satanist symbol. The symbol of the Vatican is keys, right? That is the symbol of the Vatican, keys. And in Revelation chapter 9, the portal to the bottomless pit is opened with a key. That's not an accident. That's because Catholicism isn't Christianity, and the Antichrist was always going to be a pope. That's very clear, overwhelmingly clear in Bible prophecy, including Old Testament prophecy, and it is actually shameful that Protestants have lost this knowledge. There wouldn't have been a Reformation without this knowledge that the Pope is the Antichrist, or a Pope would be. But, sorry, conservative Catholics, Pope Francis isn't a particularly bad pope. Pope John Paul was also blasphemous, and all popes throughout all of history have been, and they have all been lowercase a antichrists. I'm not, enough with the political correctness. I don't hate Catholics. I'm trying to help Catholics. I'm not saying also that Catholics won't be saved, but if they will be, it will be in spite of their Catholicism, not because of it. Mystery Babylon is Rome, and the reason why it's Babylon as a metaphor is because that symbolizes pagan religion. And that's what Catholicism is. It's pagan religion mixed with Christianity. And God hates that. The thing that God hated the most in the Bible with the Jews was their mixing their true religion with the pagan religion of their neighbors. They were constantly chastised by God about it and then ultimately exiled. The thing that God hates the most is false religion. That's what, and anyway, so I'm not going to make this a lecture about Catholicism. But anyway, the office of the Pope is apostate and a blasphemy. All right, so anyway, conservative Catholics, it's time to listen to your Protestant friends and stop it. Please stop. Leave it. As the prophecy says, come out of her, my people. Mystery Babylon, right? That's the reason why, by the way, the Pope is the Antichrist. It's a final test for supposed quote-unquote Christians that are in Catholicism to make a decision. Stick with the Pope, continue this paganism, or finally leave it. But it's like time to make a decision. And so for my conservative Catholic friends, and I do consider you friends and allies, it's time to stop. Okay? It's time to leave the Catholic Church. It isn't the Bible. And no, popes are not descended from Peter. Peter referred to Rome as Babylon, and he never talked about Babylon. He talked about being in Rome. All right? And also, Paul wrote many letters to the Romans and addressed people in Rome, but never once did he address Peter. All right? There's so many reasons why this is flawed. I'll just give you another one. Matthew 16:19 or 18. This verse is the verse that Catholics use to claim that they have the authority to make up this man-made religion on top of the Bible. Because obviously, you have to be truly ignorant to not know that Catholicism isn't in the Bible, but they claim to have the authority to have all of this. And by the way, many Catholics are that ignorant. They really do not know much because, they don't read the Bible, for one thing, most Catholics. But anyway, the Catholics claim to have the authority based on this one verse, which if disproven, disproves the entire Catholic religion, case closed. So they claim that Peter, who they claim popes are descendant of, has the authority to make up new religion on top of the Bible, popes, because they claim that Jesus said to Peter that he would build his church on him. Peter asked the disciples, who do they think he is? And Peter responded, was the first to say out loud that Jesus is the Christ. And then Jesus said to Simon, whose name had not been changed yet to Peter, he said, Simon, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. Now, the word Peter, Petros in Greek, means rock, or a stone or a pebble. The next verse, or the next line, which Jesus said he would build his church on this rock, is Petra, which is the feminine version of the word, Petros being the masculine. So there are two different words. Petra means bedrock, which is what you build a foundation on. You build a structure or a building on bedrock, not a stone or a rock, like Petros. Why in the world would Jesus say he was building his church on a man anyway? That's blasphemy. He's building his church on the bedrock truth that Peter had just stated. All right? And the whole stuff about the keys coming later, well, there's another verse later in the Bible that's not referring to what Peter had said or anything to do with Peter about having the keys to the kingdom. It doesn't mean that popes have the key to the kingdom. That's not what Jesus was saying. Okay, so anyway, that disproves the entire Catholic religion. The Catholics will never listen to that because, anyway. So I needed to go into that a little bit because there's a theme going on here with the signs on December 24th. This is huge because of this key symbolism, okay? Again, Jesus did not say that he was giving the keys to the kingdom to Peter and that he had the authority to decide who would go to heaven and who wouldn't. This is a metaphor that Jesus used to say to the disciples, look, you're going to be asked to spread the gospel, but you have the ability to, leave the town behind in dust, if you will. You have the keys. You have the ability now to give the kingdom to people with this knowledge of this rock of truth that he is the Christ. And if you so desire, you can withhold the key as well from people. Anyway, it's just a metaphor. And the key, once you open the kingdom, it's opened, right? So the gospel started with the disciples. They're not around anymore, and we are continuing the process of opening the key. But the kingdom's already been opened to everyone who will listen, okay? But the point is, too, the whole point is that Petra means bedrock. It doesn't mean Peter, okay? Popes are, furthermore, not descendant from Peter. And at one point, there were 4 popes. So if we're going to follow this absurd logic, then we would have to conclude that the lineage which one? Because there was 4 popes at one point in history. Anyway, it's all nonsense. The Catholic religion is nonsense. It's not just nonsense. It's actually wicked deception from Satan for many reasons. This worship of Mary, for example, distracts from the true from God, from Jesus. Jesus is a side note. In all of the medieval art, he's a baby in the arms of Mary. He's like, and it's now it's pagan religion I'm getting into, because whatever you want to call it, it's worship of Mary, and it's descended from the worship of the fertility goddess, like Ishtar, Aphrodite, Isis. It's all Babylonian religion. So anyway, what we have here, though, is, in terms of Bible prophecy, a key opening the bottomless pit. And the Antichrist, the Pope of Catholicism, has the key. Because that's why the Vatican is symbolized by keys. Satan has taken what Jesus said and twisted it to his own device. Which is why now we have this sign at the very end here, the beginning of the Antichrist kingdom, of the Pope opening the portal, the doors, to the bottomless pit from which the fallen angels will come through. Which, by the way, will be demons pretending to be aliens. And at one point, I believe, the Pope will tell the world that aliens have made him the ambassador for the world, thus giving him power over and authority over the nations instantly. Okay, so again, on December 24th, Pope Francis, who was at the time exactly 88 years and 8 days old, opened the portals in Rome, which made a satanic symbol. And this is symbolism for the portal of the bottomless pit being opened with a key. This is symbolized with Revelation 9:11. Revelation 9:11 is the verse that symbolizes all of this. And Francis opened the portals on December 24th, 11 years, 9 months, and 11 days after Francis was elected Pope. That's okay, so that's amazing. There's more proof for you, right? Francis opened the portals. By the way, speaking of portals being opened and the collapse of barriers of security, Pope Francis, the Antichrist, is identified as being the Pope in Revelation 17 in the 5th through 8th King's prophecy. And that's why Pope Francis was elected Pope exactly 85 years after the St. Francis Dam collapsed in Los Angeles, as in Fallen Angels, which is where Kamala Harris's flight will depart from, incidentally. Now, Francis opened the portals on December 24th, which was Kislev 24 in the Hebrew calendar. It was exactly 15 years after Kislev 24 when Barack Obama received his Nobel Peace Prize in Sweden after a giant mysterious spiral portal was observed over Norway the night prior. Okay, so we've got portal to portal connection here with 15 years. And 15 years is exactly 60 plus 60 plus 60 months, which hints at the number of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy, 666. In other words, Barack Obama is the second of the two Antichrists. Francis opened the portals in Rome 11 months and 19 days after the date 1-5, which hints at 15, which is a second witness confirmation to this 15 years connection, when Alaska, as in the 49th state, which hints at the 49th vice president, and the 49th prime number is 22/7, which is 3.14 symbolism, and she's predicted to die in the area code 314. Okay, so again, Francis opened the portal 15 years after, or 60 plus 60 plus 60 months after the portal in Norway when Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for doing nothing, and he even said so, and he was ashamed of it, or embarrassed. He said so, and rightly, he should have been embarrassed. And then also, Francis opened the portals 11 months and 19 days after the date 1-5, when Alaska Airlines, which is an anagram for aliens, dropped its door, as in symbolism for a portal, onto Portland, in a residential neighborhood in Portland. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. you need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.